Hello, I'm Norton and welcome to Nortonomicon. In this video, I'm going to show you the results of a creative challenge that I completed throughout July. The aim was to create a unique dungeon, drawn one room per day for an entire month. So who am I? I'm a part-time drawist from the United Kingdom. I create a webcomic called After the Fall, of which some of the more breathtaking pages are on screen right now, and you can read After the Fall on my website, nortonomicon.com. Just please remember to breathe after reading. But why am I telling you this? Well, I want to give you some context because this challenge is all about me stepping out of my comfort zone and trying new things. These daily dungeon drawings will be created in quite a different way from how I do my webcomic, and I'm hoping that this will allow me to learn and pick up some new skills along the way. Also, this challenge is completely inspired by OddArtworks on YouTube. Be sure to check out their amazing channel linked below. I genuinely find their videos where they create random dungeons mesmerizing. So how are we going to do this? Well, I created a blank calendar and each daily illustration will fill in the box for that date. To decide what went into each room, I rolled a D100 each day and used a random table created by OddArtworks to let chance dictate the contents. So let's dive right in and explore the creative surprises that await in this daily drawing dungeon challenge. Alright, kicking things off with day number 1, we rolled 51, which gives us crew mess. So this first room, it took a lot longer than all of the others. I didn't go in with much of a plan. I was figuring it out as I went, both in terms of the room itself and how I was going to complete this project as a whole. I did want these daily dungeon drawings to be quite fast and loose, quite zoomed out. Ultimately, I was going to colour them in as well, so it's quite different to what I'm used to doing with my webcomic. And as you can see here, I also wanted to use isometric perspective. That's not something I'm used to. It's not something I've done before. I was looking for the opportunity to try this out, and I thought this was it. However, to be honest, I did underestimate it, and I had to figure a few things out as I was going. So yeah, I think the biggest difficulty was with isometric perspective, everything's the same height, so you've got to sort of think about what you're going to put at the front of your drawing, because it'll obscure what's behind it. You can see I'm struggling with the windows there. So the process for each of these drawings was to do a rough outline in pencil and then ink over the top of it. It's the first day. I do rotate the image quite a bit, so apologies for that if it makes you a bit dizzy. Yeah, I do that so it's easier for me to draw the angles. Also, I'd not quite properly figured out how to record my screen, so you've got the edges of Clip Studio Pro there on the left and the right. I do get rid of those after a couple of days. So yeah, for this first day, crew mess, I wanted to sort of tell a bit of a narrative, so inspired by the film Alien. Yeah, I think later on I sort of draw the alien escaping through a vent. I thought at first that it'd be funny to have a bit of a story going on, and that's something you'll see I sort of battle with throughout, trying to get the balance between creating a dungeon that I think could be playable if you were to use it as a map in a role-playing game, and where's Wally, and trying to make it an amusing image to look at and find lots of interesting things going on. And I think ultimately I did lean more towards where's Wally. But yeah, quite happy. On to day 2 then, and we rolled a 21, which gave us pristine floor. So I wasn't 100% what to do here other than just to draw a floor, which I didn't think was visually that interesting. So I decided to draw like a little futuristic Roomba vacuum robot cleaning the floor, and tried to link this one into the previous day where that alien that's escaped through that crew member's chest has gone through the vent and into this room and got blood all over the floor, which has activated this little robot in the corner here to come out and mop everything up. You can see there from where I've wrote CleanBot 2000 that I am doing this a bit rough. It's not the neatest thing in the world. I think this second day I wanted to be a lot quicker than I was on the first day, and I started limiting how long I'd spend on these, so I think it was about 15-20 minutes per image, and once I got to the timer, just had to wrap it up as quickly as possible. So there's a few corrections there, but yeah, quite a straightforward room here. On to day 3 then, where we roll a 29, which corresponds with offline androids. So yeah, wasn't 100% sure what to draw here. The original idea was maybe a corridor with a lot of offline Borg-like people, inspired by the Star Trek. But because I'm doing the isometric perspective, I found it difficult to do corridors in the daily boxes and line everything up without bleeding too much into the days around it. So I decided to scale that original idea down and just did a couple of androids recharging, sleeping. Yeah, so as I was saying before, yeah, do pencils first and then ink over the top of it and try and fill in the detail. I think as I went on, tried to do less on that pencil layer and bring things more to life when doing the inking. And you see there to the right, that's just a little figure I drew just to help me keep things to the same scale as we went through. So yeah, adding the detail and continuing on with that floor, which I do tidy up towards the end. Here we are on day number 4, and the roll was number 42, which represents faceplate. So not 100% sure what to do with this one at first, but I did have the desire going into this project to at some point draw an absolutely massive head somewhere in the dungeon, sort of like the brains behind everything, and I think faceplate provided me with the right opportunity to do that. So yeah, inspired by Tron, but I think this ended up looking more like the face of a Transformer. Gave him his little beard there, little robot beard that you see on a lot of Transformers. I don't know why, it makes the face look a bit more visually interesting. And yeah, added a load of wires and stuff to the back of his head. I think this was one of my favourite in terms of the final outcome of the room throughout the entire dungeon. We've reached day number 5 and the roll came up as 43, which is Slice Beam. So you see we're sort of stuck in the 40s a bit here. We've had 42 and then 43. What I was thinking here was starting to section off the dungeon in parts. So this, you see, there's more of a cliff face behind, because I thought the idea would be that towards the right of this dungeon would be more like a moon base, like alien rocks and the like. Slice Beam though as a prompt, I really struggled with what to draw for this. So this is one of the prompts where I ended up doing something quite literal and drew a man who has sliced something in half with a beam. I think it looks alright though, adds a bit of humour. On day number 6 now, and I rolled a number 44. So we are well and truly stuck in the 40s here. That gives us gripping wires, and similar to previous day with Slice Beam, I think I ended up taking this one quite literally because I couldn't think of another way to interpret that prompt, and I drew a guy gripping some wires, and like in the classic film All Alone 2, he's getting electrocuted. I also drew a little bit of a tunnel towards the right hand side because we're at the edge of the page here, and just wanted to put something of interest in that top right corner, and then drew a load of wires coming out of that tunnel as well. Original intention being that these wires would sort of go throughout the entire dungeon, so I'll be linking everything up, but I don't think that quite pans out as things go on. So here's what we've got so far for the first 6 days, not quite a week, but the first row of the calendar. I think it's looking well. Those first 4 rooms I think work quite well together, and the bit on the right, so the 2 rooms on the right where I've sectioned it off, quite happy I did that to help separate the dungeon. So yeah, feels like working well so far, so let's see what next week brings. We've reached day number 7 then, and I rolled a 33, which turned out to be Arc of Sparks, taking us away from the 40s there. So sparks made me think of electricity and coming up with some sort of power centre to this dungeon, and I wanted to make that as sort of sci-fi as I could, and thinking of Red Alert 2, like those Tesla towers, and went for that sort of design here with a spark going between them. Nothing too much to point out here. I think I could have put a bit more time into drawing the actual Tesla things themselves, rushed through that, and could have took a bit more time to sort of square them up. Using that isometric perspective, because they do look a bit wonky, but again, the intention was to draw as quickly as possible, rough and ready. We're now at day 8, and my roll was 98, which means wired crew. So my mind went first of all to crew members that have been wired into the system, and I just ended up doing that with one person. I'd say quite heavily inspired by Warhammer 40k and the Emperor, and how he's sort of wired into his throne there. So homage to that, having a guy just wired into absolutely everything, wires coming out of absolutely everywhere. Imagine that this guy's sort of controlling most of what's going on here. I think if that was the case, probably should have drawn the room he's in to be a bit more secure, a bit more hidden. He is in probably the smallest room in the entire dungeon, but you know, I tried to draw him a pretty solid draw there, and you can see here, like with the isometric perspective, how when I'm drawing this one, if I'm drawing upwards, it does go over the top of the dungeon from the previous day, but I sort of sorted that out later on, and changed some of the detail there so it didn't affect that picture too much. Now for day number 9, rolled an 86, and that gave us thrusters. Now I did cheat a bit here because the prompt says thrusters and I only drew 1, and I think worth calling out as well that, like, same with the previous day with the wired crew, I sort of realised at this point I could cheat a little bit and sort of remove some of the walls at the front of these rooms to allow you to see in, so like indicate that there is a wall there, but it's sort of been removed for the purposes of your visibility. Just saved me having to put windows in everywhere, and I think it helped with how the isometric perspective works here. So yeah, just drew one thruster and a guy in a little room with loads of buttons, I guess testing that thruster and making sure it works. It's day number 10 and I rolled an 11, which gave me damage shuttle. So with it being a shuttle, I needed a bit of a bigger room. The ones I'd drawn so far quite small, so I needed to sort of widen this one out a bit and sort of lent into some of the days around the 10th. I also decided to tie this one into the previous day, where the damage to the shuttle is that one of the thrusters is missing. It's been taken off to get repaired. I do think I cocked up the scale there, because I think that thruster from day 9 is a lot bigger than the one missing from the shuttle on day 10. It's day number 11 and I rolled an 83, which gives me blank body. So not 100% sure what to do here. Thought about drawing some sort of clone at first, but I think hard to convey that the body is a blank clone. So I decided to just draw a big massive torso with no arms or legs that some guys are working on. Thought maybe it could be the body for the head in the day above, but ultimately that would have had to be massive. So yeah, just drew a fairly large torso, but not too big. Moving on to day number 12 then, I rolled a 71, which leads us to teleporter. So this teleporter is situated in the exterior part of the dungeon, so I thought it made sense that this would be used by these workers to teleport goods, more so than it being a people teleporter. Wasn't sure at first how to sort of convey that it was a teleporter. I think more of a difficult thing, especially at this scale. So I did a little box in the middle there and tried to show that was being beamed up, which I hope comes across clearly. And then to the left of the teleporter, thought it'd be a good idea to have a nice union man helping to control the teleporter. It's day number 13 now and rolled a 74, a fused drone. Again, not 100% sure what to draw for this, and I think the first thing that came to my mind when reading the word fused was that, like when you've blown a fuse. So yeah, drew a sci-fi-ish drone laid on the floor that's unfortunately, I think, touched a live wire, not looking after himself, being a bit reckless, touched a live wire and has blown a fuse, unfortunately. Right, that's the end of the second row. Then you can see things are starting to come together a bit. A few things to sort of think about how we're going to work around when we do the third row, like the sort of the garage there for the damaged shuttle and those wires at the right. But yeah, it's looking alright so far. Now for day 14, and I rolled a 9. That 10 is a 0, and that gives us life support. So lots of opportunities here. Join a Sci-Fi hospital. Could have drawn a Bacta tank like thing with someone in it healing, but lent more towards Dragon Ball here for inspiration, and drew some sort of healing chamber. I removed part of the top and right hand side walls there, just so you could see what was in the row above, and so you could see a bit more of what was in that room. But yeah, kept it simple here. I think at this point, like 3 rows into the dungeon, I was starting to approach things with more of a plan, and trying to focus on one sort of key element per room and join that rather than figuring things out as I go, and I think that did allow me to start drawing these a lot more efficiently and a lot quicker. Here we are on day number 15, and I rolled a 75. That's a wired gas mask. Really wasn't sure what to do with this one. I think would have made more sense if this had fallen in an exterior part of the dungeon, but the way things had sort of unfolded, this was an interior part of the dungeon. So decided to draw a guy about to walk through an airlock into the space outside. You can see I'm a bit more confident now with drawing cylinders in that isometric perspective. Lots of different elements to this one. I think probably a bit over ambitious. I think probably could have kept this day a bit more simple, but I think, happy with how it looks overall. Decided to do the doors, the airlocks, more of those like classic aperture style, make it look a bit more visually interesting. This is day 16 and rolled a 5 again. The 10's a 0. That's cracked window. So wanted to try and tell a bit more of a story here. So first thing that came to mind was to draw a cleaner that's knocked something over. I think the composition of how I've drawn this could have been better though. Don't know exactly what is knocked over. I was struggling for inspiration on this day. Some sort of sci-fi futuristic wedding cake it looks like. But yeah, he's mopping the floor, being a bit clumsy, and has knocked one of those things over, and it's cracked the window, unfortunately. We've reached day 17 and I have rolled a 38, and that's command. So first thing that came to mind was some sort of command module where people would go to sort of oversee everything that's going on in this dungeon and beyond, and thought of drawing some sort of like holographic projector. So the shapes there, you see, quite complicated, a lot of construction lines there, but seems to have made sense to me because it's coming together now, as sort of drawing the little consoles there around the outside, and what's going to be a holographic projector in the middle. But yeah, other than the projector itself, left this room quite straightforward, thinking in terms of if you are playing this dungeon, this might be a room where you go to find out key and crucial information. Yeah, keep it empty. on to day 18 and I rolled a 93, which gives us bridge. Now the first thought was to draw something very similar to the previous day command, because say bridge in a sci-fi setting, you think of the bridge on a spaceship like on Star Trek. But as I'd drawn command the previous day, I decided to do something a bit differently and took this one quite literally and drew an actual bridge. I was thinking that this would be an exterior bridge that sort of led to one of the main entrances to this dungeon. Not sure where the bridge led to at the other end. That's a problem to think about in a week or so. Moving on to day 19, I'm rolling a 4, that's airlock, and we've already done an airlock to a degree when I did the wired gas mask, so it made sense to sort of replicate that. And I'd noticed that the guys stood in that exterior part of the dungeon, none of them have got spacesuits or helmets or anything on, so at this point decided to use this as the opportunity to section that off, preserve their lives by adding an airlock here to indicate that there is oxygen and air in that top right part of the dungeon and those guys aren't going to suffocate anytime soon. We're now at day 20 and I rolled an 18, which gives us burned out corridor. So a couple of challenges with this one because we're at the edge here, so and we're outside and overlooking a cliff, so it was difficult to draw the corridor going in too many different directions, so I decided to draw it sort of going down into the bottom right hand corner. Also a bit of a challenge because we're drawing in black and white, so to think about how to indicate that this one has been burned out, ultimately decided to do that just by colouring in things with a lot of black pen. To make things easier for myself when doing that, I added another layer and just did that in a grey layer to start with, so I could sort of see what was going to be black, what wasn't, and then use my detail layer with a bit of white pen to highlight that one. So that's us 3 rows in now. You can see things are really coming together. I think at this point I've decided to make the bottom couple of rows now more exterior, because I think things in the actual base part of this coming a bit cramped. I wanted to sort of open things up a bit, but yeah, it seems to be coming together quite well. Day number 21 and rolled a 49. That's a burned droid. So I know I'd taken a few of the prompts quite literally recently, and I've just done burned corridor, so I wanted to do it a different kind of burning for this one. So I decided to draw a droid that had been burned in the sense of his friends, or maybe not his friends, have been absolutely horrible to him, and they're pointing and laughing at him because they're horrible people, robots. Moving on to day 22, I rolled a 94. And that's a smuggling compartment, so it's one kind of a little bit of fun with. Thinking of a smuggling compartment, that's something I tend to see in a ship, and didn't really have a ship to add this to as we're outside, so I decided to draw a little hover truck and add the smuggling compartment there at the back. So imagine whoever's driving this round, they've got their official cargo on the top there, and underneath it they can smuggle all sorts of illicit goods. We're now at day 23 and I rolled an 87, and that is a mossy drone. So mossy made me think of a drone that's sort of been abandoned. When sort of thinking about this, I thought about drawing some sort of alien flora that has attacked this drone, and tried to draw an alien looking tree, and don't know if it's clear if it quite works. I think I drew some bits of the tree on the drone, but the idea being that tree is attacked that drone to an extent, and that drone's been stuck there on this alien landscape for long enough that alien moss has now taken over it. Here we are at day 24 and I rolled an 88. That's escape pod. I think a bit of a weird location at first for an escape pod to be, but then sort of thought this could be where the workers can run to if there's some sort of accident in their lab. Run out and jump into this escape pod and fly off. A lot more confident at this stage in drawing cylinders in isometric perspective. It's quite straightforward, to be honest, once I'd got my head around it. So yeah, I think I took inspiration here from maybe some of the lunar modules and the escape pod from the Star War. Yeah, kept it quite straightforward, but yeah, I think this one stands out when you look at the overall piece. On day 25 and I rolled a 70, so that's a bot with a skull. Really wasn't sure what to do here because we're at a cliff and the scale of it is difficult to show a robot with a skull, but thought what made more sense was to have a flying robot who has excavated some sort of skull from the cliff face itself. Yeah, didn't really think this one through too much, so happy with how it came together. Even the robot looks quite cool, and it's clear what he's doing. He's got his little pick there, doing a little bit of sci-fi archaeology. Now for day 26, where I rolled a 94, and that gives us a smuggling compartment again. At first considered drawing another truck, but limited for space. We've got this bridge here, didn't want to cut the bridge too short, so wasn't 100% sure what to do at first, but decided to extend the bridge and draw a little compartment under it that this cheeky little astronaut or spaceman is rooting within to try and retrieve something that is hidden. Yeah, I think we spent a fair bit of time here trying to just make sure the bridge was nice and straight, and gotta get the perspective right on this, because the cliff behind this, I think you're starting to drop down a bit, so I wanted to make sure that was clear and will be clear in the final drawing. On to day 27 then, and I rolled an 8, another low number. 8 gives us biome. Think quite fortunate in terms of the placement here, because it makes sense to put this biome to the right hand side at the edge of the dungeon, sort of built into the cliff face. So yeah, drew a little bubble here then with a little robot inside, and he's watering his little plants. Sort of like a futuristic greenhouse, inspired by the film Silent Running. Yeah, I like to think he's the robot from the end of that film. Just settled down here and just focused on his gardening. That's the end of row 4. Happy that I decided to start drawing things outside, not draw any more interior rooms. I think it helps with the overall balance of the dungeon. Helps to make things a bit more interesting. I do think the bottom 4 there, so the droids, the smuggling compartment, the tree and the escape pod, could have sort of mixed them up a little bit, because they look a bit sort of very tidy in terms of how they're placed. But otherwise, yeah, I think it's coming together well. We're on to the last 4 days then, with day 28, and I rolled a 29, which gives us offline androids for the second time. So wanted to do something a bit different, as I've already drawn some other offline androids in that first week, so decided to draw androids that were offline in the sense that they weren't at work, they've snuck away and they are on their break, sort of chilling out in this bottom left hand corner of the dungeon. No idea how they've got down here, maybe they've climbed down that wire, but yeah, just chilling out in the bottom left hand corner. Moving on to day 29 then, I rolled a 67, which gives us burnout as a prompt. So not 100% sure what to do here. I'd thought about doing like a horizontal vent coming out of the cliff face initially, but didn't think that would look great with the isometric perspective, so decided to do it vertically instead, which I do think looks a lot better, even if it doesn't make the most sense. But yeah, there's some sort of vent here, maybe expelling gas from some sort of mining operation lower down. I did intend to do a bit of a flame effect on this later on as well, so I thought that would be interesting, and made sure to connect the vent itself to the platform where the Daft Punk robots are just having the break. Now for day 30, where I rolled an 81, and that's empty exosuit. It's a bit difficult because we're at the edge of the cliff and not sure how to put an exosuit down here without drawing more platforms, which I didn't really want to do, so I thought it made sense that this exosuit's become entangled in that alien tree from the panel above. And drew inspiration for the exosuit from the power loader in the film Aliens. So yeah, that's sort of become ensnared in that alien plant there and falling off. Guessing the guy is falling out, might have fallen down the cliff. He might have climbed back up the leg and got back into the base. I don't know. I didn't really think about that at the time. All that we know is that exosuit is indeed empty. And we're now at day 31, the final day, and I rolled a 22, which is Heat Ray. So yeah, I thought it made most sense to draw some sort of platform with a heat ray on it that's there to protect the base from flying aliens. So I think this one came to me quite quickly. Didn't think about this one too much, just wanted to make the little flying alien there look as alien as possible, and don't think I did that. I think it just looks like a dragon. Yeah, quite a straightforward one to finish on. I tried to make the cliff around the ray itself a bit more less visible, so that it made the ray more obvious. But yeah, happy with this one. So here we are after 31 days of drawing. Next up, I just tidied things up a bit. I added a nice black line around the outside. Did try and add this gradient at the bottom, but wasn't 100% sure on that. So next step, added 3 shades of grey and got rid of that gradient at the bottom. Replaced it with nice solid black line there. What I realised at this point as well is I needed to add some shading, so I did that as well. So you see I've added little bits of shading around the picture in grey, and then finally added colours. So this is the final dungeon all coloured in. It did take me a lot longer to colour than I was anticipating. It's not something I'm used to, and I had to figure quite a few things out. I think could have coloured it a bit better if I'd sort of known how that was going to work as I was going through it, but you know, definite learning, definitely something that I can work on for the future. Overall then, I think it's been a really fun month. I've really enjoyed doing this every day. I think I've learned quite a bit from it, a lot more than I was expecting initially. I think the main thing being that if I'm drawing something, just going into it with an idea, like a focal point for that drawing, so that I can draw around that. It just helps me do things a lot more quickly. Learn sort of how to do isometric perspective effectively, and learn quite a bit about colouring, but not enough. And I think that's something to work on moving forward. Would I do it again? Yes, definitely, but probably not straight away. I think next month I've got an idea of something different that I want to try, but I would like to revisit this and do another random dungeon again at some point in the future. And again, thank you very much to OddArtworks for the inspiration. Please do check out their channel, and feel free to check out my webcomic as well. It's one of the only webcomics that comes with a money back guarantee if you don't like it, and you can read it for free at naughtynomicon.com. So thank you very much for watching.